Hi everybody and welcome to the Jess and Scott Show tonight. I am so excited that we are here, and I wanted to open the show tonight talking about potential. Potential has so many different things. There's a leadership version and there's some other things, but I like the idea of the more of the physics side of things. So the energy potential. What can we do? How can we use that in our creative powers every single day? And if you look up the definition of potential, it talks about having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. The one thing I don't like about that is it doesn't say what future is. So when people think of future, they think of it as a long time from now. The cool thing about potential is it can be as fast as second to second, or moment to moment, or minute to minute, or as long as year to year, or years to years. So think about that as we're going through tonight, because I'm excited to explore and talk about that with Ivana and Scott and Susan tonight. Before we begin, though, I want to talk about the fact that we all are superheroes, and as superheroes, we continue to grow and evolve. This is from my son's Friday folder last week, and I can't quite see the screen, so you'll have to bear with what you can see. He's learning how to draw a circle. This is the first time I've seen anything that looks like a circle. Every other time it's always been lines and going from there. And check this out. He actually traced his name a little bit from this. Okay, he's 3, so he has a long way to go, but he is going to be a superhero just like we all are today, writing our alphabet. Whether it's legible or not is a whole other story. That's our personal style. So with that, Scott, let's play the open and take it away.
Okay, Jess, all yours.
She's muted.
I am muted. Here I come. So Peter says, looking forward to see this hangout about superheroes from a couple of Google Plus superheroes. I'll be watching the replay as always. This is the Peter who is not in the house. Sweet dreams, Peter. And
Hello,
then
Peter.
We've got Delilah. Hey, I love superheroes. And we have Carrie that says, looking forward to the show. And Michael Daniels is in the house. Should be a fun one. Delilah popped in. I'm still awake, at least for a few minutes. Tim Longwell is in the house. Hey, this will be fun. Hi to Ivana and to Susan. Phil Boyer says, I've got my cape. Woohoo! What more do I need? I don't have my cape. I'm so sad. I can't find my mask or my cape. Susan is going to show off hers momentarily. And Sheila's in the house. She says, hello, made it with 1 minute to spare. And Karen, you got the message. So glad you're here. And with that, we'll say a few more hellos in just a few minutes. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was up late last night finishing the Scott treatment that got out just fine, and then woke up this morning, had a great time doing some stuff and prepping for tonight, so I can hardly wait. This is going to be a great one.
You know, this is going to be a really great show, and I love well, I'm a big do it over and over again until you perfect it, because even in perfection, there's an opportunity to learn more kind of person. And so when somebody goes, hey, you need help, I go, who, me, what? Are you sure about that? So I'm actually really looking forward to this, because I know that there is some potential that I could learn, that I could leverage and utilize too. So this is a topic near and dear to my heart, and we have 2 of the most amazing people to join us. You're absolutely right, Scott. And that first, I'm going to introduce Susan. She has a PR and marketing background, also in advertising. She's taken some detours into retail businesses with stores, and she ended up back in PR, which brought her back to the internet, website design, marketing, and tying all those different pieces together digitally. So through her thoughtful writing and imaging and creating beautiful content, she doesn't want to be anywhere else but here. And we are so glad to have you on our show, Susan.
Thanks, Jess. It's so great to be here. I was honored that you asked me to be on the superhero show.
Excellent. And also with us is Ivana. She is the publisher of DIYmarketers.com and the president of Third Force, a firm that specializes in helping companies find their best customers and be the ones that they choose regardless of price. She's an expert and book editor for small business trends and contributor to AMEX Open Forum. Hey, welcome, Ivana.
Hey guys, great to be here. I've been a fan for a while, and great to see you too, Susan.
Nice to have you here. Yay!
Yay! So with that, ladies, I think that we should let Scott take us out into the stratosphere and see what happens. What do you think?
Okay.
We're in.
Oh, great.
Okay, you're
Right.
on, Scott.
Well, and we never know what's going to come out of my mouth until it happens, so let's see how it works this week. And I was so pleased, Jess, that you started off with potential, because I was thinking potential is really easy to see if you turn around and you have 20/20 hindsight. And I can remember, or I'm thinking about this whole topic, that had I known a year ago what I anticipate the information that it will garner tonight, my life would be entirely different, because the potential that is within this this topic is potentially that great. I just cannot believe that I've spent a year doing all of the hard work and heavy lifting in areas that I might not be, the best person to do that, when there might have been an option. There was a potential there that we might try and ferret out tonight and the next 2 weeks. So that's my stratosphere, and I'm going to toss the ball back to you, and let's get the show let's get it underway.
Well, so maybe we should talk about that. Maybe we should talk about what it means to leverage potential and some different ways that we might do that before we dig into what that might look like and how a virtual assistant or a specialist that has a very specific skill that can be included in our team can propel us forward. So what are a couple of models that we collectively know of or could explore and maybe build a new one right here on the show and while you guys think about that, I've got to shout out Mark Seidel. You being silly, you don't say. And Michael Daniels said, hey, Andrew's with him, so that's pretty cool. And Tim Longwell, I don't know where you went in my first thing, so you did hit share, and thank you for posting it again, because we are so glad to have you here, and I do want to shout you out. All right, so Ivana, Susan, where would you guys like to begin with that?
I think before we get to what they can do, I think the most difficult part is to find somebody you would want to see if they have talents that you might be able to incorporate to offload some of your own tasks that you need. So what at least for me, I've found that through visiting, through networking, through online chats and comments, I started to get a feel for somebody. It's like, man, I want to figure out some way to work with that person. And I bet I have something that can utilize their talent, but I'm going to talk to them more at a deeper level to see what it is that they really want to do and to see if I can make that shine. And I've learned that I have a nonprofit called Binky Patrol. We make blankets for kids. And when I started it, though, my whole point of starting it was to give anybody an opportunity to volunteer. So no matter what you can do, I'll find a way to use it. If you make tacos, you can feed us at an event. If you sew things, whatever it is you like to do, if you're a bean counter and love spreadsheets, I'll use that. It doesn't matter. So it's finding people with the same heart, the same values, and that you can count on, and that can spell. That's a really big thing. Oh my God.
I'm a very poor speller. You hit that one on the head.
There goes my career as a.
Well, I had to find people that can fix my messes.
Right on. Right on. What about you, Ivana?
Well, boy, Susan, you really started it really, really well. I actually, I know it seems odd for someone with a site dedicated to DIY, do-it-yourself marketing, to be talking about getting help, but really, I'm very, very similar to what Susan is talking about, which is I see the opportunity to increase the size of my virtual team. So I actually run a virtual marketing organization, and I find that by having a virtual team and doing exactly what Susan is talking about, For example, probably have maybe 5 or 6 different kinds of writers, because there is writing blog posts, which is different from writing printed copy, which is different from writing social media stuff. I mean, I could just go on, right? And what I find is that when I focus on people's individual talents or strengths, what ends up happening is that actually expands my ability to serve my client base and to do more things for more people. So when someone says, hey, can you design a website? I can say yes, because I have a couple different kinds of web designers. Can you write this? I can say yes, because I have a couple different people that do these kinds of things. So definitely bouncing off of what Susan said, but the idea is really to sort of expand the team, because then when you're focusing on someone's specific skills and what they're really, really good at, it's easy and fun for them to do, and you're going to get the best product in the fastest period of time for the lowest price. So it's just a win-win situation.
That's really fantastic, Ivana. And before we continue on this, I have a few more shout-outs. Hey, Stephanie, it's good to see you. Woohoo! And Ivana's here. I'm so glad you made it. Thanks for pinging her, Mark. That's fabulous. And I have a special shout-out tonight. I was talking to Ray earlier today, and George might be watching this. So, hi, George. You could always come join us in the comments someday, or, ping us on Google+. We'd love to include you in this community of awesome people that hang out at the Jess Plus Scott Plus You show. So it's awesome to have you watching us tonight too. Going back to where Scott started and the experiences that Ivana and Susan have, I am also in a similar situation with the team that I have. And I am curious, though, maybe we should take a minute and we should talk about what outsourcing means, and let's define virtual assistant before we continue, because we've got some ideas of how this might work and the whole purpose of thinking about expanding a team and using our superheroes, our superpowers, being the superheroes that we are, to do as much as we can for our clients, because we love them and we care about them and we want to give them a one-stop solution and be that person that they turn to. We do need help, and so let's go right through. Scott, let's start with you. What does a virtual assistant mean to you?
Well, thank you for starting with me, because we can dispense with whatever I have to say and then get to the real experts on this. The context within which I'm viewing this program is that it's our audience are entrepreneurs and small business people and business and folks who are using social media. So at least in my mind, it's not it's not a large corporation that might be bringing in contract help. It's people to people and all of those sorts of skills that are necessary. And so now, within that context, what was your question?
What is a virtual assistant to you?
Okay. Thank you. Now, leave it to me to get context and then be totally lost in the woods. To me, it is all of those hours I tried to learn how to do WordPress, and by trial and error, and I just spent so long trying to do that when I could have been doing some other things. To me, it is, being unable to, do the business side or doing the business side instead of procuring the results, billable hours that I should have. So basically, to me, it is all of those things that I want to do that I shouldn't do, and all of those things that I can't do that I need to go off to someone else. And the infrastructure now may be there to go ahead and allow it to work without having a physical building where we all have to congregate. And that's why virtual is half of virtual assistant.
Okay. How about you, Ivana?
Well, I actually have 2 different kinds. I've learned a couple things, right? So there's a virtual assistant, and a virtual assistant is almost like that person that is perhaps taking care of, how do I say this? Oh, like very, very specific tasky things. So there are things that possibly I could do on my own, but they might be able to do better, faster, cheaper, right? Now, I actually have an online business manager. Her name is Rhonda, and she happens to be here in the chat, so you might see her. She's actually pinging me on Skype. So if I look distracted, right, she's coaching me from beyond. So An online business manager is actually more of a strategic partner in your business, and they run the back end. For those of us that have online businesses, they take care of like your shopping carts, your the technology behind your blog, your membership site, all those different things, and they help you strategize on the best way to do product launches and to promote things such as Google Hangouts, and they just take care of all those strategies. So to me, an online business manager is more like a partner in my business, whereas she has virtual assistants that might help me with like data entry, copying, pasting posts, rewriting posts, those kinds of things.
Cool. Okay. What about you, Susan?
Well, first I'll say, can I first say what a virtual assistant is not?
Please, we need to get that out there on the table.
This just here's a rant. I'm ready. Don't get me started on unpaid interns. I've been to more networking groups, especially with women, that say, oh, you can get this intern for free, and then you can have them do all these things, and you don't have to pay them. It's like, how dare you? How dare you not pay somebody that's helping you make money? How dare you not give them the respect and help them respect themselves and gain the confidence through compensating them for what they're capable of doing that helps you, frees up your time, and gives them new skills. Great, you're helping them build their resume, but doggone it, pay them. And you should have no business having somebody come on your team that you can't pay.
Go girl.
That's what one is. Not. Now my virtual assistant, and I can't even call her that. I don't know what I'd do without Karen Maris. Karen is in the house, and Karen is my neighbor, and I got to know her as a mommy blogger, just reading her stuff and her rants. But I knew she could express herself, she was capable, she was smart, and I knew I wanted to do something with her. And so as my business started to grow and I was missing opportunities, well, that's dumb, my clients aren't as happy. If I brought somebody else on, they'd be happier. And so I tried her out, and we started out here right in my office, and such a hit. I had somebody yesterday, Karen, you need to know that Casey called me just to say how pleased she is with you and everything you do for us and for them. So my clients love her work, and she makes me look good. She cleans up my stuff. I don't know what I would do without Karen working with me.
I think that's fabulous, and both of these stories are really amazing and good illustrations of how we can use help. So before we continue down that, we want to have a few more check-ins. Hey, Cheryl, glad you're reporting in. And Ray, all right, Ray and George, there you are. Aquaman rocks. Yes, he does, and I found out he's a friend of Batman, who happens to be my favorite superhero. So there you go. And here's Rhonda. She did post in the stream. So happy to be here. Love talking about outsourcing and getting help. That's great. And then Johnny is here. So excited. And he's watching with Kristen. So glad Kristen is joining us too. That's very cool. Now, we had Johnny also share a virtual assistant is potentially a strong position as the future unravels. There are so many levels and layers to what a VA can do. That is so far in the stratosphere. Let's stay there for a minute. What does that mean to you guys? And Scott, if you want to take this first, this is right up your alley.
Oh.
Or do you have? If you don't have anything you want to add, we can just go right by that. Johnny may have taken the spotlight on that stratosphere question. Comment.
Well, to take it into the stratosphere, I believe that the 20th century way of doing business is dissipating, and it's going away, and that there will be disappearing task force that will be doing project-like things, and that unions will no longer. The industrial age is gone, so what's going to be replacing it? And it'll be flight of foot. It'll be people who will have 7 careers in their life. They will do all sorts of things, and it may be in 10 or 15 or 20 years the idea of a virtual assistant will go away because we will all be virtual and we'll all be assisting each other. So that, if it is taking things out to the stratosphere as Johnny is suggesting, maybe that would be the beginning of the conversation. But I'm more interested in finding out what Ivana and Susan have to say on the subject.
Susan, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to let Ivana go ahead.
We're so polite on Google.
I think every day I'm discovering or creating, and any of you that are in my closer circles know that I will make you dizzy because I'm constantly spitting out ideas. I feel bad for some of you. I'm figuring out new things every day. I mean, let's start with just the online tasks in promoting events. And just that's one whole niche area. And then amazing things like what Debbie Davis does with her time stamping. And it isn't anybody can do that. She is a specialist. So would I think of her as my virtual assistant? No. I would think of her as my virtual team member, which I think sometimes can be interchangeable because I don't want to think that there's this kind of level. We just do different things that she can't do. Maybe I'm great at finding the clients and the projects, but I can't do all the tasks to really execute it well. So I see those things. I see in-person networking event people that they love to go to those events. Hey, go find us some people. Go do it and bring them on back and then do the follow-up contacts. We have those types of things. You know, Jessica knows it's not my favorite thing to do in person. She's much better than I am. So I think if we can keep thinking outside the box, I mean, look at Ronnie and the Hangout Mastery Group with the virtual events with the mobile Hangouts on Air. You got people in the field, you have people that coordinate and wrangle the times, you have comment wranglers that are present at your event. You have the people that know how to make it all work.
So we're talking about a team, right? We're talking about an expanded team here in this definition. Okay. And what would you add to that, Ivana?
Wow. I had so many ideas swimming around my head. I completely agree with what Susan said. I really absolutely do not. Actually, I don't even really like the word virtual assistant because it does connote this type of a thing, and it's really not that at all. You know, maybe to join Scott in the stratosphere, one of the things that we started talking about when the internet first came about when I was in graduate school, like in the 90s, one of the things we talked about is the workplace of the future. And I remember my husband happens to be a chemist, and he had one of those molecule building sets so that you can build these molecules, and that's actually what I brought in for my course, because what I really see it as is, do you know that my entire virtual team are all independent business owners? So Rhonda and another woman, CEO of Ginger Snap Works, her name is Amy Nabokowski, and she runs social media campaigns for like huge brands. And so one of the things that we'll do is we will work together to create an entire program. We just did one called 50 Shades of Marketing, you know, and the first one was Twitter pickup lines. So like the three of us together were able to create this thing, but let's say Amy did the slides, I wrote the ebook, and Rhonda put all the online stuff together, the landing pages and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, and all of us are actually independent business owners, yet we come together, we'll work on a project, and then we blow apart again and go off and do other things, and then we might come together again. So
like Ocean's 11.
Yeah. I really love that analogy of like a molecule or some organic type of a system, because that's kind of what it is. It's living, it's breathing, it breaks apart, it grows, it comes back together again, and that's really what my virtual teams look like.
That's really neat. And to be completely honest with you, I am actually considering something totally different. Now, Pam, who's on my team, she's actually going to be on our show in a couple of weeks. She is also an independent business owner. She does my copywriting and proofreading and editing. And I absolutely love the work that she does. She's fantastic at what she does. I love the fact we get to be part of a team together, and we get to talk about the fact that we're a team. I'm really proud of that. I'm also thinking, though, I'm like looking at this idea of virtual assistant and what can I automate in my life? Who can answer some of my email for me? Who can manage my calendar so I don't even have to do that? Yeah, there'll be an independent business owner, but that's a different kind of task that I am looking to do. That's not part of the customer experience, so that relationship would be different. And what did you? We're gonna Blue Box you. Okay, Yovan says, Stephanie Sims, that's how I see it. Jessica Dewell just said team, exactly how I see it. A team, not outsourcing. Very cool. And then, let's see. And Rhonda said, a virtual assistant lets you focus on what you do best while operating in their excellence. So I love this idea of a new type of community that will come together, a new type of village where we all have a role that we can support each other in. But I also think there's value in automating some of these tasks that would allow me to do the other stuff that I want to do. And I think that's a different, I don't think that's a team as much, is it?
When you say automating, do you mean automating or do you mean delegating?
I think, to me, I think I'm using that term in this particular sense interchangeably. So if I want to automate my life, somebody else is going to be doing it for me. Because that would allow, that would, I mean, if I could have somebody, I mean, talk about trying to get focused. If I'm looking for this very, very focused time, and I can order all my groceries on Amazon Fresh, but it takes time to go there, and I buy things I don't need, and then I spend a lot of time learning about these new products that I really don't need right now, and it's taking away from time that I need to spend or want on a project, or want and choose to spend with my family. I'd rather have somebody else buy my groceries online and have them arrive at my house than me. Maybe. What is that? Is that a little shallow, or is that actually going, oh, I'm actually getting that granular in how I want to spend my time and how do I use the time that's available to me?
Susan?
I am a firm believer. I mean, I'm one of those that if my printer stops working on the network, I throw it away, because my time is worth more than it costs to go buy a new one online and have it delivered to my house for free shipping from Amazon Prime. So, you know, if it takes me 2 hours to troubleshoot a stupid printer, it's out the door. And I know it does every time. Now, as far as automating my life, I know a lot of tools, and I have some great tools, but it takes time to implement those tools. So then I say, Karen.
That's
Karen,
so cool. Yeah.
Or Lainey, help me, and I get help. It isn't, you know, it isn't always necessarily, it's, let me ping you and ask you a question, but I don't ever want to abuse that either with a lot of my friends, because we're all in this to make money too. And I have to admit, last week, shoot me if one more person said, can I bend your ear for a while? And there's nobody here that did that, but I had a lot, and it was from ends I'd never heard from for quite a while, and it was exhausting, and that's up to me to just say, no, I can't. So I want to, you know, if I need to automate things, I'll pay Karen to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like abracadabras it, and there it is, and it's working. And if it's not working, then I go back and say, Karen, can you tweak it? But I don't have the time to do that. I can go get all the tasks in the billable time, but I would much rather automate it. My house, I would rather have less time online and get to mow my own lawn. That's my cardio.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
I think first is defining the deal breakers of what you hate doing, what you must find somebody capable to do for you where you don't have to babysit them. I don't want to do hand-holding, spoon-feeding, or anything else that you have to do with a lot of these people that don't take initiative. And I'm sorry to call some of you younger folks out, because I'm almost 49, but some of them, like, oh my gosh, if I have to spoon-feed you and tell you how to look something up on Google one more time,
Right.
I put a stick in my eye. So, you know, defining what you don't want to do, and then also on the other list, what do you love doing and you don't have enough time to do? So what do you need to offload to give you more of the thing that gives you joy, to help you create more, to be able to offload more to your team?
I think that's wonderful. And, you know, I was using Amazon Fresh as an example. I actually shop at a local co-op here called Puget Sound Community Co-op, and they don't deliver. So I go to the grocery store. But I sure do wish they did deliver so I could order online and not drive there. That's for sure. What would you add to that, Ivana?
Well, you know, I have to, now I'm really going to show my age because I'm going to quote Michael Gerber. And one of the things that really stuck with me out of that entire E-Myth series is this idea of laying out the tasks and doing the things that only you can do. So it isn't, you know, there's lots of things that I don't like to do, but there are several things on that list that only I can do. It's either part of my brand or it's, you know, just an activity that I have to do. So that's probably the only distinction I would make out of Susan's comments, because I think that's really, really important, is to lay out. And the other really great tip that was in that book that I continue to carry with me is to lay out all the tasks that need to be done. And I think he said in that book that the biggest mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make is that they hire someone to do everything that they already do. So now you have two people doing the same thing. How does that look on camera? Like that. So what he advocates doing is making this list of all these activities and saying, only I can do activities 3, 6, and 9. And then I'm going to find someone who's really good at doing, 1, 2, 4, etc. So
Cool.
I thought that was just really good stuff.
I like that. And the one thing I would add, and I think Susan touched on this, and I know that's where I was coming from, was I need to bridge the gap between what's happening at work and what's happening at home, and really identify those things not only for my business, but for my home life, to really have the maximum amount of time to do the things that I want and to have the priorities. Well, make the priorities and then figure out how the rest come together is how I would look at it.
Here's an example. Who
Yeah.
else is going to be the mom?
That's right. Only me. And that's the one I want to do. Do I want to do the laundry? Not really, but I do it. Do I want to do the cooking? Not really, and I do that half the time. But I do outsource cleaning my house. That is a deal breaker for me, and I'll go on record and say, you know what? My house is clean because I found the best person who her team loves cleaning houses, and she does a fabulous job at it. And and Scott actually introduced me to her. So, that is something that I have decided. That is time I would rather spend doing other things. I would rather finger paint and get dirty in the mud and blow bubbles outside than I would cleaning my house.
And I'm just going to add a couple of additional things, Ivana. One is, I think one of the very first conversations we had about the Jess, and at the time it was the Jess and Scott show, was the E-Myth. And that was a book that Jess brought to my attention, and we're going to have to do more with it. It's been brought up several different times, so that's got to be one heck of a good book for it to have got to have.
It's an oldie but a goodie, Scott.
It is. I still reference it too.
The second thing is everything I know about virtual assistants, and really we're going deeper than that, this whole new model, I learned from your Hangout on Air that you had maybe 2-3 months ago with Chris Drucker.
That's how we met. That was it, Scott.
Yeah, and so we've got a great conversation going on, and we're not going to do any video inserts because what's happening here is golden. But there will be links to that Hangout on Air in the comment stream after this show is over, and then a couple of the Scott treatments that derived from that as well. So you were just so spot on, and it's just perpetuating the movement to a new way of doing business.
And here Sheila, she chimed in earlier about the previous conversation is defining what you shouldn't be doing is half the battle, and I think that applies not only to what Susan was saying originally, but also what Ivana and Susan then we came back all the way around to say. So I love that. Now here's a question from Stephanie. Ladies, do you talk about your team on your website? Is it a relationship that you want to choose to keep quiet? Does keeping quiet also mean we are perpetuating the myth that we can do it all? Woo-hoo-hoo.
That's a great question, and Karen would call me out on this. I tell certain clients directly exactly who they're dealing with because it depends on our level of access that we need, and because sometimes it's such a specialized once-in-a-while task and not all the time. I don't mention my code fixers. I don't mention the people that I call in and say, oh my God, how do I do this on Drupal? I hate Drupal. And those types of things, because it's a one-of or it's very brief. If it's a long relationship with this one client in particular, they know all about Karen. I don't put it all over my site because I'm also very selfish. She is building her own clientele, and I've helped her with her branding too. But it depends, and because people look at it differently, and they want to deal with the owner, is what I find too with a lot of my clients. It's a different kind of mindset. Some like it that you have a team. So for me, I mention the team, but I don't give her a bio. I have to think about that. It's probably time that with Karen that I probably do something like that out of respect. But I also don't want to look like I'm her employer though too, because I don't want to deal with the tax thing. So that's the other thing. You do have to be careful of that type of thing too. But I got to give a shout out to my son.
Yeah.
He made this cape.
That's so cool.
This was from the time that I delegate to others so I can volunteer at the school and do film projects. So shout out to Austin.
And shout out to delegation and using a virtual team here too. How about you, Ivana? How would you answer that question?
That is such a great question, and just like Susan, sometimes it's appropriate. I have clients that really love that I have a team, and I'll have people that sometimes request that Rhonda work on something, or people who are my web developers. Actually, I share them. They're other business owners, right? And so people say, "Who did your website?" And I'm happy to refer them and build their business up for them. But I'm actually going to give kudos to Rhonda, because right in the comments she actually said you have to be the face of your business, and ultimately, it's part of my DIY marketers is that you have to be the one that owns your brand. It is yours to do, right? So you have to be the face of your business, and that doesn't mean because you mention or not mention your team. I mean, somebody can be throwing their team's name around but be a jerky boss. I don't think I can use a 4-letter word, but
you're right. We don't have the over 18 checked, but we get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to be a jerk.
So that actually makes a really good point. So it might be on what your growth strategy is. If your growth strategy is to actually expand and have a team in person or continue that virtual working relationship, so be it. If it's not, and it is supposed to and wants to remain an entrepreneur with a single owner or a single, solopreneur, then I think that's a different kind of outlook in how you would look at it. I know, and I said this before, I shout out Pam. She has a bio as the person who does my copywriting and editing all on the red direction stuff. And if we need her for other things, I then do an introduction, and we go about it from that direction. But I wouldn't have Red Direction without her, and it wouldn't look as awesome as it is without her. So that is something that I really honor and value. And I do think that there are a lot of considerations. Both of you guys mentioned them. Now there's a follow-up question, and then we do have a couple of other questions from some other people. So the follow-up question, does this change how you see the person helping you, meaning as a partner versus an assistant?
To me, I never looked at... Here's the deal. I hired Rhonda because I, for the life of me, was paying 3 months in a row for one shopping cart. That's $130 a crack, right? 3 months have gone by. I'm already like almost $400 in. I call her up and ask her to put in the one shopping cart. I think that first charge was like $50. Seriously? I couldn't do it. She did something I was not capable of doing for 3 months. So I can't even imagine having that task relegated as an assistant. I just don't see it as an assistant, because I'm like, to me, an assistant means someone that does something I can do and they're helping me. And that's not how I see my team. They do things like there's no way I could do. Or maybe I could, but...
I think titles are a little deceiving, right? So we've got this label of virtual assistant, but what does that mean? And Johnny actually, he says, I agree about virtual partners is generally a better term. In every instance is unique. I remember a JSY show on ghostwriting where the ghostwriter might get paid to be undercover, but that is the concept when the hiring is made. So it's actually part of the overall plan and strategy.
So I'm just going to jump in here. Have we abandoned the idea of having a virtual assistant? In other words, having a secretary who happens to be, even in the Philippines, someone who is not a team member, someone who's interchangeable, a faceless person who you just pay minimum wage to do manual tasks that you don't want to. Is that that something?
Like Fiverr?
I don't know. I'm the one who's asking the question.
I have those too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't rule that out as part of a virtual team. I just don't, there wouldn't be the core of my team.
For me, that just doesn't fit into my team. I want a stronger relationship because I get very intimate with my team because that's the only way we can communicate clearly, and I don't have to do the hand-holding. So for me, yes, but no. Virtual assistants can be anywhere in the world. They can do any pieces.
I think I might have it. Excuse me for
Okay.
butting in one more time. It might be that if you're a big multinational corporation or there's a certain size where it makes sense that you can just hire interchangeable pieces that will do tasks that need to be done. But if it happens to be, everything that we do is handcrafted with love. So you don't delegate to, some low, whatever it is you want to call it, tasks that are near and dear to your heart. You assemble that team that will love what you're doing as much as you do. Maybe that's the difference. It is who's doing the hiring, whether or not it's a virtual assistant or it's a virtual team. It's a partner. What do you? Please.
I think we should stop right there because I think you said that very eloquently, and we should address Andrew's question. Can there really be superheroes without VAs?
No.
No. Is that a unanimous? Should we all say it at once? 1,
No.
2, 3. No!
No.
I love that question. Which I like very much. So, okay, before we take a short detour and come back, go to the +2 takeaway before we come back. Ivana, Susan, do you have any other thoughts at this moment that would make Scott's statement that much clearer and more eloquent?
Not more eloquent, no way. But I did mention a word that has mixed connotations, Fiverr. And when you were alluding, Scott, to lower or whatever, it's just different fee structures around the world. It isn't lower. I've also hired people at $8 an hour and said, I refuse to pay you $8 an hour. I will pay you $20, or you're not doing it for me, because it's not comfortable for me. I want people I want them to be invested in what I'm doing, and I can't if I don't give them that respect. So whoever it is that's doing whatever task, this is me, and I know a lot of small business owners around here and medium to larger business owners feel the same way. If you want the loyalty, if you want them invested, if you want them protective of your business, pay them what they're worth, give them the respect that they deserve. That's all.
Perfect.
That's how we started the program off. That's great.
Yes, it is. Okay, how about if we segue right into the +2 takeaway? Scott, you've got that up and handy?
Yep. Why don't you go ahead and blue box it and let me know when I need to advance.
Okay, fabulous. So we're going to start with talking about full potential, and we unanimously agree that to reach our full potential, we do need help, and we can't go it alone. So revisiting what potential means, having or showing the capacity to become or to develop into something in the future. So when is the future, and what does that actually look like? All right, Scott, let's jump right into this. First, we have to be thinking about what is our foundation. What are we going to work from? What does that look like? And I just grabbed 3 things, the first 3 things that came to mind, because this could have been a really long list, and we could have spent the entire hour just on this piece right here. And that is the skills. What do we need to know, and how do we need to be able to do it? And what is going to allow us to learn? The next piece is the thoughtfulness. What critical thinking skills do we need, and what type of environment can we expect to create for ourselves to allow the playfulness of creative thinking to occur? And the third is service. Ultimately, we're all in business to make money, but what is that money all about? Is it to live a comfortable life? Is it to be of service of others? What is that motivator? And really understanding that as part of what you're striving to work toward. All right, Scott. So we don't know what we're going to find once we start climbing, once we get up that ladder and look over that wall. Who knows? So I think you need to think really big and think really cool, and then multiply that times 100,000, and then do it all again. Think big, think bigger, think cooler, and maybe even do it all again until you have this idea that is so clear and hits all of the strengths that you have that really will allow you to move into the next step, which is the next slide as well, where we think about the questions that we ask. The W's and the H's matter. Now, there's really only one H in who, what, where, when, and how, but it looked funny without the apostrophe S, and I am in a playful mood and would love to have somebody shout out what another H word would be to start a sentence with. That would be a fun one. So the questions actually matter more than the answers here. So taking the time to think about what are the questions that we need to ask now that we have this idea that is so big and so real and so it ignites who we are. What are the questions that we need to ask to start drilling down and figuring out what that looks like? And so that comes back to the purposeful action for the possible, potential, and powerful actions. There was my alliteration of today, and that goes to Mally Hart. Okay, and so moving on to the next slide, those well-crafted questions actually offer us the biggest potential, which allows us to look at alignment. What is the potential alignment? What is the correlation between the ideas that you have and the actual work that you're doing? Because sometimes what comes out of this is the work that we're doing is not actually the work that makes us excited and happy, so we can shift things around and bring in other team members or other people to support us in such a way that we can shift and we can continue evolving and growing what we've started. Or maybe we make a left turn and we start something completely different. Both of those things are valid and valuable and are unique to you and what you are trying to decide to do in your life and in your business. So let's go to the next slide, which is where we're talking about the potential. And if you come into some disconnect there's actually a leak in your potential. You don't have as much potential and energy as you otherwise would. So once you've asked those questions and you've got that alignment, then and only then can you really look at the intrinsic value of the product or service that you have. It's all about then what the audience or the people looking at it, what do they see, how do they respond, what are the solutions that you're offering compared to what they need, are those expectations being set, and now trying to create an alignment between that experience and what you've decided. And that might be a slow process or a shift of some kind based off of going through an exercise. And granted, we're talking about going through an exercise, and what does that actually mean? It's the exercise of potential, which means that we will change and we will evolve as we are working through this. Okay, Scott. So it might feel like that. It might feel like your heart is in this place and there are all these corridors and entryways and doors and dead ends and opportunities, and we just can't find it. That is the purpose of everything that I've talked about so far. Taking that time, having the skills and the thoughtfulness in the service, how we're going to apply that in terms of service, to the questions that we want to ask ourselves and what we want to be doing so that we can, all right, Scott, keep going, so that we can start building a path and making it clearer and clearer. Okay, keep going again. And keeping that passion is really important because then a path will emerge. That will become clear. That is the process. That is what we are trying to achieve. And that's when we're fulfilling our place in this world. We're providing the service and the approach and the interaction that we want. The people that we are providing our product or service to are experiencing what we are telling them they're going to experience, and it gets easier and easier because each action is now kinetic energy to ignite you even further and further into more research, more learning, and more thinking. So that is when that whole process, when you see that path occur, that's the satisfaction. That's the nourishment of your soul. That is the energizing piece that gets you out of bed in the morning. All right, Scott, what's next on this on this presentation? And this is the hardest part. You've got to stick with it. You've got to be that flower that when there's nothing but a pile of gravel or two pieces of rock stuck together, you can do it. And that's where that potential energy comes from. You've stored it. You've got it. And it's not difficult, it's just hard work. If it's difficult, there's misalignment and you've got to go back and look for your leaks. But if it's hard, that's the journey, that's the learning. And then when you get done with that, what are you going to do? You're going to start over again. You're going to find a new crack to put a seed in to let that flower grow. Stick with it, and we get better and better at what we're doing when that occurs. So let's talk about the space and the time aspect. All right, Scott, let's move to the next slide. Because when we take the time to be thoughtful, we can figure out how it works, what it is, and it takes longer than internet time. I hear Scott talk about internet time. It's so fast, it's internet time, it's not regular time. And it's true. The internet is crazy fast. It is so crazy fast. But thinking doesn't occur at crazy fast speeds. Thinking occurs at regular brain speed. So we have to figure out what that balance is and how, and that's a challenge in and of itself. That has nothing to do with potential. Still part of the equation of how do you have full potential, though. So that's when you're in tune, when you're bringing all of these pieces together. That's that being tuned in. And now we're going to talk about 3 things then to wrap this up. All right, Scott, what's next here? First is the consistent voice. Stay there for a minute. The consistency of voice, the presentations. We're setting the expectation. We're making a standard and we're sticking to it. That's that consistency, the sticking to it. The next piece, the second takeaway from this, is the foundation questions. What are those foundation questions that we are working from? And if we do find disconnect, I'll bet there are better or different questions that need to be discovered, to be asked, to get us where we want to go. The third piece, all right, Scott, this is a good place to advance. So the third piece is you. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to you. Finding the desire and the willpower, it might be mostly willpower depending on the day, to find those questions. And how do you actually do that? I am a big proponent of once you know what questions you're asking, those are your foundation questions. That's what you're going to be looking at in your business at least quarterly, maybe half yearly, or maybe annually. And if you decide to do it just as needed, you're not as tuned in. So could you go through the work of finding those questions and then just check in with you when you need them? Sure. Typically there's going to be more work to be done because you're not in tune as you go along. And that is one of the key pieces, is why not create part of your process as part of your habit for running your business, for loving your business, for growing your business, and keeping it on the track and the evolution pattern that you want. And that comes down to what your full potential can be. And it wraps up the +2 takeaway.
There we go.
There we go. All
well
right.
done. Well done, Jess.
Thank you. That was a fun one to put together. Now, coming back to our topic, superheroes can't go it alone. I wanted to check in, and I know we're good. Closing thoughts are coming, so part of our closing thoughts are whatever you want to say to wrap up this topic, and definitely be shouting out where to reach you, or anybody can circle you here on Google Plus because you are in the event description. I wanted to shout out Cheryl. She says some people like to be the wind beneath the wings, but not the front man. I'm really good at support and I enjoy it. Love it. And then Rhonda also piped up and she says, great team. A great team is everyone operating in their own excellence and making for a mastermind business. Fabulous. Everybody has a gift in it. That's everybody's superheroes right there, Rhonda. You summed up the entire show. Superheroes all come together. I don't know, what is this is really, I know a lot of superheroes, but isn't it the Fantastic Four that they have the rings and you power on your rings? What is that, ladies and gentlemen?
The Wonder Twins?
The Wonder Twins. I thought there were 4 of them. Anyway.
Power Rangers? Is it Power Rangers?
Power Rangers, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. Sometime I'll have to show you the superheroes I have of Ryan and Carter. I turn them into superheroes, and we have dolls and everything for them. It cracks me up. They have their own origin story and everything. So yes, Rhonda, superheroes. That's awesome. And then before we wrap up, I also want to shout out Andrew. Why call them a VA? Why not call them exactly what they are if you pay them that are either an employee or an outside contractor? And I love that. And you know, that is a great way to think about what we're going to be talking about next week, which is product and service positioning in the marketplace. Are we inadvertently competing with virtual assistants when we shouldn't be, or are we a virtual assistant and we don't know it? And what would that look like? So great question, great lead in to shout out what's going to be part 2 of our trilogy here. All right, Ivana, Susan, which of you would like to go first with your closing comments?
I'll jump in this time. Okay, so I think the one thing that everybody's asking themselves right now is, how do I get me one of those virtual assistants? And Susan had mentioned Fiverr, but I am a huge Odesk and Elance fan. I've used both. I gotta say that most of my team is from Odesk. I happen to know Gary Swart, and it's just worked out that way, but I've been really, really happy. So if you guys are looking at jumping into virtual assistants, check out Odesk and Elance. And that's it.
Okay. And just to memorialize it, would you be kind enough to put mention those and maybe put links to those in the comment stream after the show, please?
Absolutely, we'll do that.
And
Appreciate it.
Ivana,
Thank you.
how do we find you?
Look at her. She's reminding me now. Absolutely.
I'm telling you.
So you can find me over at DIYmarketers.com. So it's DIYmarketers.com. Stop on over, take my marketing style assessment, find out what your best style is, and be the one your ideal customer chooses every time, regardless of price. Go ahead, Susan. It's all you.
Woo-hoo. So your superheroes, I want the takeaways that they don't have to just be in our work life. I have superheroes at home. I could not make through my day without my at-home superheroes, with my friend superheroes, my nonprofit volunteer superheroes. See, I'm the superhero? Not really. The people that help me, they're my superheroes. And I couldn't do what I do and shine like I do without them, and without them standing behind me when I come up with these ideas that I'm constantly saying, and then. And I don't know what I would do without them. So remember to pay tribute to the ones that are in your life in other areas as well. Give them that respect and recognition because it really matters to them more than you think it does. So that's my takeaway. You can find me at susanfinch.com, plus Susan Finch, pretty much Susan Finch just about everywhere, unless that other Susan Finch on the East Coast got it. But it's Susan M. Finch. That's it.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, Scott, what do you think we should wrap up with?
Well, I was just going to thank our two esteemed guests for leading the way because they certainly are, and it's just been such a pleasure and a joy to sit back and for us to co-create what I hope was some insights and aha moments during the last hour. So thank you both for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. We have had some amazing conversation. Your thoughts are really inspirational to me and changed and expanded my view on what we can do to really leverage the potential of our superpower, and that we already knew we needed more than just ourselves to get to where we're going, but the actual ways and applications to be able to do that and do it well. And thank you. What are their names again? Rhonda and
Susan, what's yours?
Rhonda and Karen, thank you for joining us in the comment stream. Love it. Absolutely, positively love it. You've been great additions to our show as well. And closing thoughts, that hour went quickly. Great show. Thanks, Mark. And Carrie says, this is one for my archive. Thanks, Jess. And Yovan says, I have to say it. Sorry. Thanks to Jess and Scott and you for finally a great HOA today. You just saved my day. Too many bad shows in my queue lately. Well, you know, that is an incredibly high compliment coming from you, Yovan. I'm going to receive that and say thank you very much. And again, next week we're going to be talking about marketplace positioning of our specialty services that we have. Are we a VA? Are we a specialist? How do we choose that choice? And then how do we make sure that our marketing is in place for that? Talk about an amazing amount of information. An amazing amount of information tonight. I bet that you know somebody after watching this that would benefit from it. And if you do know somebody, pass it along with a personal note. Say, hey, I thought about you. Take a look at this when you have a chance. And if you know somebody, then pass it on. Wait, no, that's a chain letter. Don't go that far. Just go one step. Pass it to somebody who you think would benefit from this right now, where they're at in their world, in their business, in their life. Let's help each other and get the information we need to propel each other forward, to lift each other up, and to come together in community wherever you happen to be watching this. So thank you very much for your comments, your contribution, and you know where to find Scott and myself on Google Plus at Just Plus Scott Plus You, and on YouTube also at the Just Plus Scott Plus You show. So thank you, everybody. Have a fabulous night, and we will see you again next week.
Bye. Thank you.